We're ready. The real question is, are you guys ready? Maybe. They're only lukewarm ready, sounds like. All right.
I thought it was good.
It's going to be like uproarious cheers by the end. That's our goal. All right. So welcome to Code Faster and Better with Visual Studio 2017 Productivity Enhancements. We've called this talk a lot of things. We usually call it tips and tricks. We went for a way longer title this year.
I kept forgetting it. But it should be effective. Code faster and better. OK.
Cool. So I am Allison Buchholz-Au. I'm a program manager on Visual Studio, focusing primarily on the editor and IntelliCode, which we're going to showcase today.
Cool. And I'm Kendra Havens. I'm also a program manager on Visual Studio and .NET. My main focus is the unit testing experience in Visual Studio. So if you want to geek out with me later about that, please do.
Yeah, we're also going to be at the booth all week. So if you have any questions that aren't answered during this talk, or if this talk just makes you come up with more questions, feel free to swing by. We will be there pretty much all the time. So to get started, we have our agenda here. We are going to do intros. We're done with that. So one thing down, we're already successful. 5 minutes to wow. This is going to be a super demo-heavy session. If any of you have seen me or Kendra talk before, we pretty much are in demos the entire time. We think the best way to show you some of these tips and tricks is in the scenarios where you're actually going to be using them. So we have a huge flow to take you through, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. During these demos, we're going to talk about performance improvements, testing improvements, the latest refactorings we've added, how you can collaborate with your team, and how to enforce code style and formatting both on your own code and on your team's code. We'll have a whole list of resources for you, and we'll try to leave about 10 minutes for Q&A. We know generally you have lots of questions for us, so we'll try and leave some time for that. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Kendra for performance improvements.
Thanks. So first off is major performance improvements in the very latest versions of Visual Studio. We've been making incremental improvements in all of the many updates that you've seen coming out. So just to talk about it before we actually get into break it down, one of the major improvements that we made is solution load. So this is a side-by-side comparison video. On the left, we have update 15.0, and on the right, we have 15.7. So these are like 10 months apart. This is loading the Roslyn solution. It's 162 projects, over 4 million lines of code. And you can see on the right, one second. Oh, it's just about done. So the solution loaded in 15 seconds. That is 4.5 times faster than what you will see in previous versions of Visual Studio. 2017, overall, the difference from Visual Studio 2015 to 2017 is about a 25% improvement. That is a very conservative estimate, obviously, compared to what we can see, what we can reproduce in our labs. So we'd love to see what you guys are seeing in the wild with your solutions. So that's still going to take 68 seconds to load. But a few of the main things I want to call out that we also improved as far as performance is branch switching, unloading and reloading C# and Visual Basic projects, as well as test execution. And text execution is a huge one, and I'll go ahead and show you that in a demo. OK, so here I'm going to load our Smart Hotel 360 app. It's our basic web app that we use in a lot of our demos. It's it runs through Azure App Services. It's a basic smart hotel sort of app where people can book, where guests can book various services through a hotel, or their rooms, or something for their pets. So I want you to keep an eye on the Test Explorer. Boom, that was 5,000 tests loaded in a clean solution in a matter of seconds. So that used to take maybe minutes. We improved this by, massive factor. Most of the improvements got into Visual Studio 15.6. It's because we introduced a new type of test discovery called source-based test discovery. So it runs over your source as opposed to your built assemblies in order to discover tests. It's essentially your compiler. It's a Roslyn analyzer doing test discovery now, as opposed to the previous version. So it's much faster. And you can actually see it's much more responsive. So, sorry. If I went ahead and went to my test, there we go, that I can add, you can see that it will automatically appear next to all of my other tests. So I didn't need to rebuild my project in order for it to be discovered. Some of the other improvements that we've added in the Test Explorer space really recently is this hierarchy. So you can turn this on in this little Show Hierarchy button, and it organizes your tests by project namespace and class. That was a huge major ask that we had for quite a long time, and we're super happy to get it in. Yes. Yes. I am also super happy about the little things, so that's why we're doing the tips and tricks talk. Okay. So something you also see is a difference in UI during a test run. So we've made test runs much more responsive. So you can see my tests that are pending to execute get this clock icon, and tests that are currently executing will get this progress ring. This is super key if you have a long-running test run and you think one of your tests is the culprit and doing something weird and causing an error, some kind of overflow. You can actually see during the test run, before it's even finished, what is holding it up. So it's sort of an automatic feedback that you can get right in the Test Explorer during a test run. Okay, recap?
Yes.
Before the other things? Okay, so big performance wins. Solution load 25% faster than in 2015. Awesome test discovery improvements, hierarchy view, responsive test runs, and test discovery not requiring a build to do discovery. Okay, can we switch back to my screen so I can show? So the first, one of the new things we also added in Visual Studio version 15.8, that's our latest stable one. All of the features that we're showing today are in the latest stable version, so you can go and grab it. You don't need to wait for it to come out. One thing that we added is new keyboard bindings. So if you went ahead and went to your keyboard and tools options, we now have ReSharper and Visual Studio Code keyboard bindings by default. So you can still use all of the shortcuts that you are most familiar with without actually needing to relearn any of that muscle memory that you've got.
Or remap all of the functions that you really enjoyed before and figure out how to avoid conflicts. We've taken care of that for you.
Yeah, so okay, so now we can kind of jump into our demo flow. The first code fix and refactoring that I want to show you is actually caused by a merge conflict. So I'm going to go ahead and cause that in the Team Explorer and do a merge. So you can immediately see every time we have merge conflicts, we usually get these like header comments inserted into the file. One of our new code fixes is actually just being able to choose what branch you want from the editor, just from your control dot menu. And as soon as you take it, it will also erase the comments that you wanted. So just a handy dandy, oh, right. I didn't even say the best thing about that yet, guys. It was contributed by the community, which is super key. So now we applaud you. No, we're applauding you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so it looks like I have a failing test, Allison.
Ooh.
And I'm pretty sure we worked on this together recently. Can you go ahead and show me what's going on here?
Sure. So actually, I'm totally not beside you. I'm off at home in my pajamas, and I only have my personal computer.
I could have sworn you were right here next to me.
No,
okay.
I'm far, far away from you.
You were just thinking of me.
Yes.
Okay.
So I only have my personal computer. I don't have Visual Studio set up. I don't have any of my enlistments or anything set. So why don't we start a live share session? And it's going to allow me to leverage everything that's on your machine without having to go through all of the setup on mine, so I can help you really quickly and then get back to my vacation at Disney World.
That's a great idea. So I'm going to go ahead and click the share button up at the top of Visual Studio. I see this button as soon as I install the live share extension that we have out right now. It's free. You can try it out. So that generates a link that I can go ahead and chat to Allison in Teams. And we might have practiced this a couple of times
Just a
in our
couple of
chat
times.
history.
Cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that link. If you missed it, I have this awesome switcher in my computer, and I switched to my screen. That's what you're seeing now. Just by clicking on that link, it went and launched Edge, and it does, do you want to switch? Yes, I do, because I really want to help my coworker Kendra.
Thank you for helping me on vacation. It means a lot.
As you might notice, Visual Studio Code is loading up. I'm actually going to do a switch one more time so we have a split screen where you can actually see what's going on Kendra's screen and on my screen simultaneously. So on my side with Visual Studio Code, I've got the live share extension installed, and it's right now loading the entire project system for Kendra's project. So I'm going to be able to navigate around project files on my own. I don't just get the file that she's showing me through screen sharing. I'm not going to have to tell her to, oh, can you please go look at this file because I think the problem's there, and oh no, you went too far, that's the wrong one. You're going to see I'm going to be able to navigate independently. Takes a second because we're on, demo network, and I'm sure you all understand what that's like.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
right as I say that, here's the entire file system. If you open up Solution Explorer, Kendra, you'll actually be able to see that this is the exact same thing that Kendra has. And again, this has no environment setup. This has none of the enlistments that I might need. This is leveraging everything on Kendra's machine. And you can think about Visual Studio Code as basically a view into her project. Cool. So now that we have this, I'm going to dial it down so that you can see it a little better and turn on word wrap. So Kendra, tell me what's going on here.
Looks like we have a failing test. I know we went over this together. Yeah, do you know what's going wrong here?
Could you go ahead and highlight that test for me?
Yeah,
it's
this
out where
Go Green.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh yeah, it's up there.
Got it. So
you can see my highlights, right? Okay.
Cool. So I can see where Kendra is. In fact, I'm following her right now. I can
My
cancel
cursor.
following her and
So
go
if I go
through.
somewhere else, she follows me along with my code.
Yep.
Boop.
Where'd our
Okay.
test go?
Sorry, I'll go back.
Or maybe, you know what? I'll just unfollow you and go find that test myself. There it is.
Yeah.
Cool. So now I'm just going to go ahead and take a look. It looks like this is what we're testing. So I'm going to go ahead and Control Dot to navigate to that method. Again, I have all the navigation components that I have come to know and love with Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code.
So I'm going to start following you now by clicking your little symbol on my Visual Studio, and it pops me to where you're navigating.
Exactly. So I've got this string message. I think something might be going on there. You'll notice I have this light bulb icon. And this is the quick actions that you would expect from Rosalind in Visual Studio. So I've got all the remote language services that I would expect if I were debugging this code on my own machine. So if I Control Dot,
Let's start live unit testing. So, since we're making changes to the code anyway, I'll go ahead and do that. So I can do that by going to live unit testing start. And how many of you are really familiar with live unit testing? Very few. Oh, you're gonna love this. Okay. So live unit testing is a Visual Studio Enterprise feature. It watches your code, and as you make changes to it, it can run the tests that cover that code, and only the tests that cover that code in the background as you type. And then it bubbles up all of the feedback through Visual Studio right in the editor in the margin through these little live unit testing glyphs. So I can see there are 3 tests covering this line of code, and I can even debug them from product code. Okay, sorry.
No worries, sorry.
I just really like live unit testing.
It's very easy to be excited about projects that you work on all day and all night.
Sorry, I'm a testing person.
Cool. So what this means, as Chandra mentioned, is that as I'm fixing this code, she's going to get that live action response. So as soon as I've fixed it, which hopefully I can, she'll know immediately without having to search for that test and run it, and we wait, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is Control Dot. As I mentioned, we have all of the refactorings here. Add null check is actually one of the new refactorings that we've added in the 15.8 time frame. I'm going to go ahead and use is null or empty. Cool. So I've got this now.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to show I'm not touching my keyboard right now, and the changes, like the code refactoring she just did, appeared in my editor. Okay.
Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and drag it into under 7 days and add this here. Cool. And I want this to be not null or empty so that it runs properly. Another thing that actually, do you guys think we could debug in this mode? Yeah? What do you think you can do if I start debugging in here? Like, what are the actions that you'd want? Breakpoint? Okay. So,
Like if Allison could set a breakpoint in my debugger.
so maybe we
It's
want
ambitious. I don't know.
breakpoint there. So
Totally
breakpoints
can.
appear automatically. Why don't you start debugging this test
Totally.
actually?
So I'll go ahead and debug it.
Cool. So I'm getting the same output. Pretty cool. And if we wait for a second, we also have variables. We've got watch windows. We can add a watch if we'd like. And if you notice up here, we actually have all of the simple actions to step into, step over. In fact, I'm going to step over here. And as you notice, we also get the same exception helper. So again, remember, none of this is running live on my machine. It's just on Kendra's. But I'm getting all of the information that she would expect as if I were right beside her. So actually, let's go ahead and quit debugging, and I'll get back to fixing that.
Sure, thanks.
Cool. So we're going to add in that refactoring one more time. Ooh. Fortunately, my finger slipped there. Get rid of all this code we don't need anymore.
Awesome.
Cool. So
you can see live unit testing, all of the tests covering that line are now passing since we added that null check.
cool. But you know, I also have another pet peeve. I really like the simple return to be in the beginning. So what I'm actually going to do is show off another one of our refactorings and go ahead and invert this if. And now it looks much cooler to me. And one last refactoring I want to show you is if you look at this if statement here, you'll notice we're just returning true or false. I want to make that a little prettier, and I'm actually convert this to a conditional expression using ternary operators. So now it's all in one line, and it uses what I love to call that nice syntactic sugar and makes it all nice and neat and beautiful. So I think you said all of the testing is done, Kendra, right? Are you all set?
Yes, I can mentally keep developing now that all of my tests are passing. Feel much better. Thank you.
I am going to get back to Epcot, and I will see you later.
Okay, bye.
All right, let's go ahead and switch back to Kendra's screen here.
Okay, something I was also noticing as we were developing, I'm not sure how well you can see it on this screen, but there are parentheses in this if-else statement that are slightly grayed out. Now, I have a problem. I was that kid in English class that used way too many commas. And then when I learned to code, it changed into parentheses. So one of the new code fixes and refactorings we have is remove extra parentheses. So, oh, why isn't it popping? All right, so there's remove unnecessary parentheses. I'm going to use that all the time. Okay, I actually think, did we have it up there? Oh, no, we're good. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about what these methods are doing. In our Smart Hotel 360 app, this is our method that texts housekeeping if a customer would like to go green. So like skip housekeeping for a few days, save water, do less laundry, smell a little bit weirder, but hey, it's all right. Something I was noticing, and as a part of this, I'm using an Azure Cognitive Service to actually analyze what comments guests are leaving and gauging what sentiment that is. So here I'm iterating through their sentiment batch result item that is part of Azure Cognitive Services, and I have a little for each loop. Something that we've added in 15.8, latest version, is converting for each to for. So when I actually do that conversion, I can also rename, oh my gosh, was it glitching out a little bit? Okay, I can also rename the variable that I'm iterating through. And you can go back from for to for each. So whatever you prefer, just a nice little addition, to make your editing experience a bit simpler. Something we've also added along that same vein, here we have a link query, and I can actually go ahead and convert that to a for each. Because I don't know how many of you have ever had problems reading link queries just easily. Maybe we all write them
Right
in our
there.
sleep. Oh my gosh, so
lots of
honest.
hands.
I was going to be like, no, those are our coworkers who aren't familiar with so this refactoring is for them. Make it a little bit easier to read link queries right off the bat. We don't yet have a refactoring to go from for each to link query, but we are working on it.
We
that
are
would
working
be cool.
on it.
All your coworkers would be like, oh wow, they can just write link in their sleep. No, it'll be great. Okay. So something I actually noticed here was I may be texting housekeeping, but I'm not actually telling them how many chocolates they could be leaving on the pillow. So this is, if the sentiment score is below a certain number, I'm texting housekeeping to leave a little bit more chocolate to sweeten the deal. But I'm not actually taking that sentiment score, and I could actually calculate how many chocolates I want them to be leaving. So if I went ahead and added an integer that goes ahead and calculates this, see, I'm already doing the extra parentheses thing. I can already tell I'm going to get a warning. All right. I'll go ahead and fix that. Remove unnecessary parentheses. I got another one. I can add parentheses for clarity because order of operations is a big deal. Okay. So now I'm getting a warning under text housekeeping because that method didn't expect to get a double there. So I can actually add the parameter from the call site, new code fix that we added, and not getting a warning. And if I go ahead and do Control-click to navigate to my text housekeeping method, you can see I'm now getting a double. So that actually caused a few errors when I added that because I use that all over my code. So I should go ahead and set a default there. And then I can use a handy-dandy interpolated string to actually insert the number there. So slick. C#6 features, very great. Okay. Okay, so.
I feel like we're talking
I know.
a million miles a minute, so we're going to take a deep breath.
Excellent. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, you might have seen that a lot of these looked like no tests were covering this code, but you can actually see it does have a reference, so it actually does have a test covering this. This is just, the live unit testing glyph is a blue line when it says no tests are running over it. That's because the test isn't included in the live test set. So if I actually navigate to that test, I'll show you why. So I want to jump to my, what? Has yours been freaking out a little bit?
You know what? Here.
Oh, is it because we're still sharing? No, that shouldn't be it.
Here, why don't we do this?
Control T.
You can use mine.
Actually, no, it started working again.
Okay.
I think I'm good. Okay, sorry.
We clearly didn't sacrifice enough to our demo god, so thanks for bearing
That's
with
true.
us.
We need to, okay. So I can use Control T to open this little go to all navigator tool that we have. And I can use regular camel case searching to get to my chocolate sentiment test. But what if I don't actually remember the name of the file that I was recently working in? Just in 15.8, so super recently, we added R, which is go to recent files. So I've always been able to use go to all, and I could type F to search for files, members, or types. So R is the new one that we've just done. So I will go to this, my guest request tests. So now I'm in my chocolate sentiment test, and you can see it has this test category, skip run live unit testing. This because this test is inputting a bunch of guest comments in multiple languages, which is cool, into my Azure Cognitive Service in order to get the sentiment score back. Since live unit testing reruns tests with every single code edit, I didn't actually want it to do all of those transactions every single time I was typing a character in code. So I went ahead and added a skip test category. So something great about this is I can add this category in a file that has a bunch of other tests that are also included in live unit testing, and it just won't affect them. And I mean, something we didn't call out in the beginning, actually, you remember we first discovered 5,000 tests as part of this test project. I can actually exclude all of the tests that I don't want to include in live unit testing. from the Solution Explorer. So I can just right-click and exclude anything I don't want. That can be super helpful if a large test project is integration tests or load tests or perf tests, anything that's not a unit test that you don't need giving in-margin feedback on your code. You can go ahead and exclude, and it'll run a bit faster. It looks like, I'll look at my test explorer and what results I got back there. I'm pretty sure I was expecting a few more negative sentiments, that I'm actually sending. So I'll go ahead and close that. Oh, pinned it. I should go ahead and insert more test data for this test. So I can select multiple lines and hit Control-D to duplicate that line. It doesn't actually copy anything into your clipboard, which I like a ton. So if you have something in your clipboard that you want to be saving, you can hit Control-D to duplicate your selection, and you can still use whatever was previously in your clipboard. That's super nice. So the next really big thing that we want to tell you guys about is multi-cursor. That is Control-Alt-Click. I can use it to edit multiple lines at once. So I can change all of these to more negative sentiments. Needs more chocolate. There we go. All at once. So let's see, I added, People are really excited about that one. Allison will show you a little bit more.
This was actually one of our top user voice items, and it was one we were really excited to finally give to you guys. We've heard a lot of great response to it so far, and we definitely have more in store with that feature that we'll show you in a little bit.
Yeah, it was wrapped up in an extension for a while, and a lot of people were able to try out some things that we're trying to add in preview kind of states or experimental states. So thank you if you tried it out and gave us feedback on it. We're so happy that it's just in the default install of the product, and you can just get it, and you don't have to install anything extra. We're really excited about that.
And it'll work just as you'd imagine with all the same, perf standards that we hold all the features of VS to.
Yeah. So if I go ahead and rerun my chocolate sentiment test, remember it's going up to Azure Cognitive Services and rerunning it. And it looks like it is passing thanks to my little code lens icon reporting the results. So I wasn't super familiar with Azure Cognitive Services when I first started implementing this. One thing that was super helpful is even using regular control-click navigation in my code, I can actually go ahead and control-click into my NuGet references as well using something that is called navigate to decompiled sources. So it's not your exact reference, it's what we're guessing with the ILSPAC compiler that it looks like. So this is my Azure or my Cognitive Services method that does all of this. I didn't know that I needed to take like the list of strings that are my user input, format them a little bit, especially like convert them into like the multi-language list input, and how to read out the sentiment batch results. It's only like 30 lines of code, which is actually really impressive, but I wasn't familiar with working on it. So I was able to use control-click to navigate to the decompiled source. There we go. So yeah, I get a little statement saying like, hey, are you actually allowed to decompile this reference? Because we don't always know what you're getting into. We're just your compiler, humbly so. But Azure Cognitive Services is okay with that. So right now, this code that I'm seeing that I just navigated to, it's not part of my source code. If I hover over the file in my editor, I can see that it's a part of the Azure.CognitiveServices.language, text analytics, all of that. And it gives me a bit more information. So I needed to read in, I could have known through IntelliSense, I needed a string, there are 3 strings, a language ID and a text. What a decompiler can tell me is a little bit more. So language, for example, should be the 2-letter ISO code, like EN for English or ES for Spanish. So that's just super helpful. That's actually an experimental feature. You can turn it on in Tools Options. And let's see if I remember how to get there, actually. Oh, yeah, it's text editor, C#. There we go.
All the
C#.
options.
advanced. I know I was super bummed out. We haven't indexed it with Control-Q navigation. That's what we usually use. We'll get on that. But it's this enable navigation to decompiled sources and experimental sort of feature. OK.
So it's in the box. You just have to turn it on.
Yeah. But what if I'm using a NuGet reference that is, I actually know is open source? So I will jump to a different method to show you what I mean. I started implementing a method that would allow guests to request a shuttle to the airport from our website. And when doing so, I took a dependency on this bus helpers NuGet reference that Casey Ulanut has actually published. I know she's used the latest .NET Core 2.1.3 or later. And I know she has the source code up on GitHub. So what I can actually do is set a breakpoint and go ahead and debug this. So this major feature is source link debugging. Do we have a slide on it, or should we just go? It's source link debugging, guys. Remember it. OK. So what I can do is step into this reference. And I can actually see how my NuGet reference is handling the inputs that I've given it if it's open source. So when you hook up source link debugging, and you can actually see when I hover over this file, this code is not a part of my source. It's actually drawing from my app data local file on my computer. So as long as your NuGet reference published using the latest .NET Core, you change a couple of things. If you're a NuGet package owner, you just change a few things in your CS proj to enable this for people who consume your package. So super exciting. Another thing that I want to call out as I step through this that we're really excited to talk about is this tiny little step backward arrow. So how many of you have ever been debugging and you actually just step 1 or 2 steps too far and you miss whatever local variable you actually wanted to see was the difference? Thank you guys for being interactive. It's making my day. OK, so this little arrow, when you hit it, is step back debugging. We also have called it historical debugging. We first announced this at Build just a few months ago, so it's still really new, and we're trying to tell all of our friends about it. So please go back and evangelize. So I can actually see, you can see my locals history down here. As I step backwards through all of the steps that I just made, it remembers what the values were. So I'm not recompiling the code. I'm just rewinding the variable view so I can see the history of those values. So we're super excited about that. I can return to live debugging with this button, or if I step forward far enough, I just re-enter regular debugging mode. So that's, yeah. Thanks. So that was source link debugging with step back debugging. We're really excited about it.
Cool.
OK.
You want to do your recap?
Yeah, I'll do my recap. Oh, good, it's there. Thanks, Allison. So a bunch of refactorings I went over, for each for loop, link to for each duplicate code. I showed you our new go-to-all feature with R for recent files. We saw multi-caret. Allison can show you more, though. It's even better. Then we went over navigate to decompiled sources, source link debugging, and step back debugging. Another thing, do any of you maintain NuGet packages in here? And might be interested in it? OK, awesome. So in our source link debugging, so our source link is open source. We have a repository on GitHub. It's .NET/sourcelink. That'll have all of the instructions if you want to enable it for your customers, I guess, your consumers of your NuGet reference. OK. So as I was doing this, I noticed I'm getting a lot of.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Switcheroos.
I'm so glad you're working that, because I don't know. So I just noticed I'm getting a bunch of dots under my var. And I know you were doing some things with my code cleanup settings. So what's going on?
All right, so let's go back and switch to my screen here. Because
OK.
as much as I love your computer, I'd like to be able to drive now. OK, so.
Jeez. OK.
So Kendra is right. As you might notice here, we have a var here, a double here, a var here. We've got different code styling everywhere. How many of you have spent, the 2 weeks with your team just fighting it out of, this is what we're going to do for our code styles? Anyone? Oh, the rest of you just it's futile, just not even going to try. Yeah, so we heard these stories over and over and over again. And so we really wanted to introduce ways to make this a little easier, to give you reminders to help enforce these rules to be consistent. So the first way I'm going to show you is actually just for your local machine. So if we go to our local machine here and we go to Tools, Options, Text Editor, C#, Formatting.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Sorry.
Is there a faster way to get there?
There is a faster way, but I will show you this one first. It's Control Q.
Okay.
So here we have code style. This is just for your local machine. So anything I do on this machine is only going to affect what my current Visual Studio instance on this specific machine right now. So right now, you'll see, let me just scroll down here. For these var preferences, we only have the refactoring. That means that Visual Studio isn't going to tell me that I'm inconsistent. But if I really wanted to make things interesting, I could turn these all to warnings. And if I change them to warnings and I go back and I go to...
Can I ask, how many of you have used these to configure your code style in Visual Studio?
Only a couple.
A few.
So
okay.
lots of new people
yeah,
here.
There's more over here. Okay, cool.
So when you notice I changed all of those settings to warning, now in my error list I get all of these warnings saying, hey, you should really use var instead of explicit type. Let's go ahead and change all of these.
What?
You know what? Just
I'm
wait.
sorry. I shouldn't sass you. Anyway.
Kendra really likes explicit types, and I really like vars. It's okay.
Var's easy to write.
So yeah, you can change it to warnings. You can also change it to errors, but it doesn't currently block a build, but it's coming. So if you really want to enforce your code style, you can actually make it stop compiling until you fix them. So one thing that we have here, if we scroll all the way to the top before we deal with formatting all of these, is how many of you are familiar with format document in general? Cool.
Yeah, lots of
So
fans.
you guys know with this ugly spacing here, if I do Control KD, it makes it all pretty, right? It's great. It's wonderful. That's something you've seen before. So instead, if I go Control Q and I do cleanup, if I could spell it right.
Control Q navigation.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
Great. What we're going to do is we're going to apply implicit, explicit type preferences there. So, in fact, if I reopen my error list, you'll notice all my warnings are gone because it took all of those instances where we used an explicit type instead of var, and it changed them to var.
It fixed them.
Oh, it totally fixed them.
I used air quotes. Okay.
I know. So it fixed all of them just like that. Which is pretty great, because now that means I can just write my code the way I like to, do a format document, and then it snaps to whatever the code style that I want it to be. But again, that's just for me on my local machine. What if I want to enforce this on my team? What if Kendra is like, Allison, no, you're wrong. We have to use explicit types.
So I've never done that before. Yeah.
Never. How many of you are familiar with editor config? Just a few.
Yeah.
Okay. So editor config is our solution to this problem, where you want to have code style that not only stays on your machine, but that travels with your team and with your project. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click here, and we're going to add a new editor config in IntelliCode. I will talk about IntelliCode in a second, but we're just going to focus on the editor config part right now. So editor config is a file format that is just text-based, and it's going to generate all of these rules for us. With IntelliCode here, what this is going to do is it's going to scan through your entire solution and create an editor config that has the least number of violations, basically. So it's going to take what the standard code style of your solution is at this point and generate an editor config off of that. Sounds cool, right? So we're going to go ahead and do it. It's inferring it, it will not take a few minutes.
Yeah.
Although maybe I just jinxed myself by saying that.
I was going to say, so all of you that have used editor config and like learned how to write rules and everything, we're trying to make that a little bit easier to do. We can just infer the style from your existing project with the IntelliCode extension.
Yep. So now we see that we have all of these different options. So do we want a new line before an else? Do we want to sort our system directives? And if we go, let's see, down here, where do we find it? We have, var for built-in types, var when type is a parent, and we say, yes, let's use var, and it's a suggestion. But what if, Kendra gets a hold of this file, and she's like, no, we're going to change it. Well, I've got true highlighted here. I want to change both of them. So remember multi-caret. I could do Control-Alt and add another selection, or I can make it one step easier with Shift-Alt period, and it adds an extra selection and a caret in both places. So it adds the next selection that matches what you've already selected. I can continue doing this with plus if I wanted.
So cool.
Yeah. And what's even cooler is that I can also skip this. So for example, I've added this true. Maybe I don't actually want to select this one. If I do Control-Shift-Alt period, it increments that last selection to skip over it so that now I can change. Ooh. OK, Visual Studio.
Exciting.
I can change that to false if I'd like. I'm actually going to change this one back to true to keep things simple just so that I don't anger my demo gods. So we have this as a false. I'm going to go ahead and change this to false as well. If we reopen our error list and we go back to our test here, you'll notice that now I have all of these suggestions that have come back up. If I go ahead and do another Control-KD, it's going to get rid of all of those for me. And in all the places where there were var, there are now the explicit and implicit types, just like Kendra wants.
Just duplicating.
So that's one of the easy ways that you can actually enable editor config in your solution. Again, this travels with your repository. This is a file that gets checked in. Some of you might be wondering, okay, what if I want to scope this down a little? What if there's only one project I really care about? Maybe there's a bunch of legacy code that you don't want editor config messing with. Believe me, we've heard that. The way editor config works is, as Kendra likes to call it, cones of influence. So it works in a very similar way to CSS. If you have anything that is under a directory, in a directory underneath the original editor config, it overrides it. So for example, for tests, maybe you're just really happy your team wrote tests, and you said, it's OK, I don't care about your style, just please write tests. You can drop in an empty editor config there, and it won't carry any of the solution editor config rules that you set up originally. Cool. Whew. Feel like I've been talking for a while. So the last thing that I would love to show you guys is our first foray into machine learning and artificial intelligence in Visual Studio.
Buzzwords.
I know.
Sorry. It is cool.
So as I mentioned, we have IntelliCode. You saw the first instance of that in the editor config generation. But as Kendra was typing, or as I was typing earlier, you might have noticed that our IntelliSense looks a little different. We're getting these stars right here. And this is IntelliCode at work. So IntelliCode is basically machine learning IntelliSense. We have scanned over 2,000 open source repos on GitHub that have 100 stars or more in order to understand what general patterns are, so that your IntelliSense recommendation orderings aren't just alphabetical. They're actually relevant to the context you're in. And we only hope that this will continue to get smarter. We also previewed this at Build, but the extension is available now, so please go out and try it. So, for example, we have this string array, and it shows you that split is likely something you're going to want to do. It's super context sensitive. So if I change this to var, and then look at what it suggests, it says, oh, well, first shuttle is just a string, so length is generally the most prominent method we want to call on this. If I go down here, let me change this back, because I know Kendra wants her no vars. If I go to this second one, it says, okay, so you've done a split, you probably want to do another split followed by trim. If we change all of these to var, that changes. Again, using that awesome multi-cursor.
So nice.
So again, with split here. Cool. If you guys ever lose IntelliSense and you want to get it back, you can get it back with Control Space. And if you need to see something underneath it, you can hold down Control and it goes transparent. Just one of the nifty tricks that we've come across in our days as demoers. So you'll notice this second one, if we change it back to var, it says, well, trim might be what you want. Mm-hmm. And if we go to this third one, it says, well, you've used split twice before, so you probably are just going to keep using split. So this is just a simple case where changing how you declare that variable will help us understand what you're actually trying to do with it. And the repeated patterns that you use can help us learn more. It is important to note that we are not like analyzing your code or sending this out in any way. The only thing we're doing here is looking at, it's a machine learning model, so it's all statistics. It says, oh, if you have basically a string, what are you most likely to do with that string? So I know some people get a little scared that like, oh, we're reading your code. We're not, I promise we don't know anything. It's all just statistics, or machine learning, as they like to call it. One more thing to know is that we have a lot of recommendations off of anything that is commonly known. So for example, with assert, you're going to get these little stars here letting you know, hey, this is what you should be doing. Another one is date time up here. So if we do shuttle request, you'll see that date time. We're often converting date time to strings or adding days or converting to universal time. But if I go to bus helpers, which as Kendra mentioned was something one of our coworkers published, we don't have any information on this. And that's because unfortunately bus helpers isn't something that's commonly used in the 2000 open source GitHub repositories that we used as our training data for this. So this is an extension right now. It's in a super early stage. And if you want to help drive where this goes and how we make this better, the heuristics we use, we highly encourage you to try it out. Come talk to me at the booth so we can make this the coolest thing there ever was. Awesome. All right, and I think with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Kendra.
Yeah.
Or rather, I'm going to recap this.
Even better.
So things we talked about, IntelliCode. I probably talked your ear off about that. We talked about code cleanup. This is Control KD. As I mentioned, it is an extension of the format document. You need to enable which rules you apply through Tools Options. You can also do a quick launch with Control Q and just type in cleanup and it'll show up. Editor config, if you want to make everyone follow your code style rules, just check in that file into the repo and see what happens. And finally, multi-caret. I demoed 2 of these here, but there are more. You can add a matching selection with Shift-Alt-period. You can make it skip a selection with Control-Shift-Alt-period. Or you can add all instances within that file with Control-Shift-Alt-comma. Cool. And we're going to pass it back to Kendra.
Awesome, thank you. So something that I wanted to talk about that ties all of this together. Yeah, we have time? Okay,
we have plenty. We talked real fast.
Yay, okay. That's because I wanted to show you Roslyn analyzers. Okay, so something that ties all of these code fixes and refactorings together, the editor config, the code style rules, is Roslyn. So how many of you know what Roslyn is? We've talked about it before? Awesome, okay. For those who didn't raise their hands or they're asleep, Roslyn is the C# and Visual Basic compiler, and we took a huge step, a huge leap sort of, and we re-architected it in Visual Studio 2015. So since that release, we re-architected it with the idea that it is a platform, that it should be extended as a accessible API for the community to take with and run with. So in doing so, we also went open source, as many of you are aware. So I mentioned that we've had a ton of community contributions in the past years. That's actually why this whole talk is kind of an omnibus of code fixes and refactorings and everything we've added really recently. And you can tell that a ton of those were packed into even minor versions of Visual Studio. So we're releasing really often, and we're releasing a lot with each update. So I kind of wanted to show you guys what analyzer development meant and how it can impact you. So you can download the workload in Visual Studio. It's the .NET Compiler Platform SDK, and you can just file new project, code fix, and analyzer package. So I just wanted to show you what that looked like. It's in extensibility. It's analyzer with code fix. So I have that open here, and when I actually go ahead and debug this, it takes a little bit extra time to start up. Actually, that's surprisingly fast. Okay, I'll take it. That's fine. The demo gods were like focusing on this demo because we don't have as much time. Well, that's good. So you can see it started up really quickly, but when I started debugging, it launched a separate experimental instance of Visual Studio. So this Visual Studio over here is running this version right here, just so it's super clear. Our default analyzer startup project that we have is the code fix for changing the class name to uppercase. So obviously, we don't ship this code fix. This code fix is what you are currently developing on your project. So you can make your own squiggles. You can extend your compiler in absolutely amazing ways. So if I actually went ahead and undid that, and naturally it's gonna, okay, cool. I'm a little bit spooked about how fast that was. Usually it takes longer.
Don't jinx that.
Now I feel like something's gonna go wrong. Okay, so if I actually set a breakpoint in my analyzer project and I go ahead and open that light bulb, that's when I hit the breakpoint of how it's initializing the code fix. So that's just an example of something really impactful that it's a ton of extendability that you all have over the compiler. We've had an awesome community response over it, but I still want to keep telling people because I think we can grow more. And a lot of people, until they see the demo of like, oh, you're launching another instance of Visual Studio, it doesn't always like connect completely, I think.
So Kendra, how many lines of code was that analyzer?
Oh, geez, probably less than 200? What does Casey usually say? I can't remember.
It's like 20 lines.
It's like 20 lines.
It's
Okay.
like 20 lines.
It's like 20 lines. Sorry. So one example of the community taking this and running with it is definitely XUnit. How many XUnit users are in here? It's a super awesome testing framework. So they have a NuGet package of XUnit analyzers that they developed. And you can just install it like any other dependency in your project from the NuGet package manager or through the NuGet console. And it'll install under the analyzer node on your project instead. And you can actually extend it and see like XUnit has all of these rules for how you use their test framework. Like test classes must be public. Fact methods can't have parameters. So if I actually try to add one here, I'm going to get an error. So this is saying like, hey, fact methods shouldn't have parameters. You should actually just convert this to a theory. So Microsoft didn't create that rule. The community did because they made something and they have opinions on the best ways to use it. So it's just a really fantastic way to sort of help people develop and use best practices on your tool that you're giving. So we're really trying to enable other people to code better. There's just a bunch of awesome stuff you can do with this. You can actually reset the severity to what you want. And when I do that, I actually changed it from an error to a warning, so now it's actually just green. So I have a lot of configurability over the analyzer package that I install. So you have a lot of power over your compiler, and not only in how it looks to the people who use it, but also in how it applies to your own code. And you can see this actually appeared as soon as I changed what severity level. I got a whole nother rule set on my project because I'm now altering the rules that were originally installed, so it's now my rule set. It's just a super amazing addition to XUnit development, and I'm super impressed with everything they've made.
Yeah, so for those of you who have teams where you're like, oh, I really wish, we had this analyzer. It's very specific to your team. One of the demos we always use is you have someone who's using a lot of like console logs, and you're like, don't do this, just remove all of them at the end. Casey actually has this analyzer on GitHub. You can check it out. We'll give you the resources afterwards. But you can write these analyzers to really fit the scenarios that your teams have. You don't have to wait on us. You don't have to wait for, Visual Studio 2021 to get that thing that you'd really like. You can feel empowered to go and do that yourself.
Yeah, we're definitely just a platform for you guys to build on.
So with that, we're going to talk about one last sort of community feature. How many of you have come across our docs and you're like, that is wrong. That is a very wrong thing.
Or like even a spelling error. Yeah.
Spelling error. How many of you have like a tip or trick that you wish were better documented and shared with the community? Couple? Yeah. So we've also open sourced our docs. So the power is in your hands to help us out. Kendra and I could write documentation all day, every day, for probably years, and I think we all know that Visual Studio would still have things that, are a little left under a rock.
Yeah, it's a massive platform.
So we try to enable you to actually provide, to work with us and be a part of the community. So if you go to any Microsoft Docs, as we have here, we have the productivity guide, you can actually go ahead and edit this document. It will take you to the GitHub repo. You just go ahead and fork it, submit a pull request. One of our writers, who sort of gatekeeps our docs, will look over it, and then assuming it's all set to go and you're not just, writing, oh, this is the best thing ever, they will go ahead and improve it, and you will see your change live. So this is a really great way to just help each other, help us. We're not perfect. We make mistakes sometimes, and we definitely want to catch them sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So you're actually looking at our .NET Developer Guide for tips and tricks. So everything that we just covered there, we're currently editing the document for. So it opens up on GitHub, and yeah.
Cool. So just to sort of recap here, we've got tons of resources for you. Our tips and tricks guide, which has a bunch of the stuff we talked about, is aka.ms/VS2017 guide. If you're interested in IntelliCode, which I hope you are because I'm really excited about it, you can go to aka.ms/IntelliCode or just come talk to me at the booth. We've got more demos to showcase. If you're interested in SourceLink and live unit testing, we've got those. I'll stop reading all the links. If you want to be able to showcase some of these features to your team, Kendra has created this awesome, simple tutorial that's available. It's got nice comments in it. They're all set, so you can show everyone these awesome refactorings and things we've introduced.
It's like one page, and you can just run through and apply all of the code fixes and refactorings that I just showed. So
again,
simple.
Our docs are open source. And for those of you, how many of you ever participated in like a call with a Visual Studio PM over the last year?
Like us. Yeah, people.
Do you guys want to? Do you want to have more influence on the features we build and the things we do? I would hope so.
Super fun.
If you do, I would highly encourage you to fill out this survey at the bottom. PMs like myself, like Kendra, are constantly trying to figure out ways to engage with the community. Sometimes we need a half an hour of your time. Sometimes we need 2 hours to test a prototype. The more you engage with us, the more we know we're building the right things for you. And so we're really focusing on that community outreach, which is why I would love if you would come talk to us more.
Yeah, especially just learning scenarios that we never would have imagined would break someone because we thought we were fixing something. Like, those are things we can't test for, because it's been so far extended into scenarios we didn't imagine. So we're super thankful for community input.
And last but not least, we've got other talks that you should go to. We didn't really touch on anything in the Bugger specifically, but you should go to the talk tomorrow at 10:15. And that's our friend Jackson, who's going to be showing you all of your tips and tricks for debugging. We've also got 3 other talks covering, Visual Studio and Xamarin, VS for Mac, or VS Code. We're all a family here, so we like to also pump up our other family products. Please give us evaluations. I know Kendra and I talk super fast. I hope you could understand us in the beginning. But please give us evaluations. We love doing these talks. We're always trying to grow and be better and serve you guys better with these talks. So anything you can give us will help us the next time you come to Ignite, so that hopefully you have even more fun and learn even more things. And with that, we actually have 15 minutes for questions. So
we talked way too fast.
We talked really fast. If you guys have any questions, now is your time.
Hi.